Hello
Hello
there.
there.
Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
This is episode 185 of Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. Today is the 10th and final episode of season 22 of Star Wars in the Galaxy, where we have been going through Star Wars Rebels season 2. We're at the end. We just recorded. It's been a week for you all, but it's been probably around a half hour since we recorded with our great guest Alden Diaz of Octa Radio and Anytime of Canon Alden. It was a great episode. We really love doing that episode. But now we're here with the retrospective. And yeah, y'all know the drill. And if you don't, Jake and I go through a whole bunch of things, just reviewing the season as a whole, of how we enjoyed this season or whatever we covered in this season of In a Galaxy. In this case, it is season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. So first, we go over our overall thoughts. Jacob, why don't you go ahead with your overall thoughts?
This is an absolutely fantastic season of Star Wars TV and of TV in general, in my opinion. We get so much growth from all of our characters, and as much as season 1, I think, is very underappreciated in what it does for Star Wars, what it does for these characters, season 2 is really where we dig in, because the season's so much longer and there's every single episode. I think, in my opinion, with only the exception of one or two, every single episode brings something valuable. Every single episode makes an impression. Every single episode makes you think and feel. This is just such a strong season from start to finish, and it does such a good job of getting us intimately familiar with the entire family that is the Ghost Crew. We have the Zeb episodes, which are fantastic. We have the Sabine episodes, which are fantastic. We have some of the Hera episodes, which are fantastic. We even have a Chopper episode, which is pretty good as well. Obviously, Kanan and Ezra, and especially Ezra, are really the centerpieces emotionally of the show. But from an ensemble perspective, this is just beautiful, beautiful TV. And we see so many amazing planets traveling around the galaxy, but it's all with a purpose and with clear intention. And my goodness, I just came away already loving Rebels, already loving season 2, but I came away with so much more appreciation for how season 2 handles developing so many characters and so many threads.
Yep, I'm just going to read. I largely agree with you, Jacob. I'm going to read what I wrote. I rarely read what I write verbatim, but I think for something like overall thoughts, I think what I wrote here is pretty good to just stand on my thoughts. Star Wars Rebels Season 2 breaks down the doors of the universe that Season 1 had, for good reason, been containing, and just lets at it from there. Characters from Star Wars The Clone Wars, such as Ahsoka Tano, Captain Rex, and Hondo Ohnaka, make their triumphant returns, and they both feel natural and never take away from the fact that this is the Ghost Crew, specifically Ezra's show. Another thing that this season does incredibly effectively is develop characters that season 1 just didn't have time to develop. We get episodes dedicated to looking into Sabine Wren, Gareth Aurelius, Alexander Callis, and even Chopper, to make this show a bit more of an ensemble cast. Of course, Ezra Bridger and Kanan Jarrus still get their own time to shine in incredible, vivid episodes like Legacy and Shroud of Darkness, the former of which drives a real turning point in the show, where Ezra can move on from the looming questions about his parents. All this culminates in one of the greatest episodes of animated television Star Wars has ever seen, with devastating beginnings and endings for so many new and beloved characters alike.
Very, very, very well said. Very eloquent.
Thank you.
I feel.
No, and same to you. I think we're both very positive about this season, while still acknowledging, in my opinion, that this is not the best the show has to offer, and in fact, only glimpses at the best the show has to offer in succeeding seasons.
Absolutely. I think, though, that seasons 3 and 4, and for good reason, but they get so much of the shine and the appreciation, the praise, and a lot of people say, "Oh, Rebels really gets good in season 3 and season 4." Season 3 and 4 are so fantastic, and when it really starts to get a little bit more mature, a little bit more grown up and well-rounded. But season 2, like, my goodness, it is a lot closer in terms of my enjoyment and the overall quality. I think it's a lot closer to those last 2 seasons than I remembered, and I give it a lot of credit for that. It's a darn good season of TV. I feel like season 1 and especially season 2 just deserve a little bit more appreciation in that regard. But I agree with what you say.
I can understand that. Jacob, next up is our ranking. So why don't you go from bottom to top, your ranking of all 20 episodes of Star Wars Rebels?
All right,
Season
and
2.
we're ranking Trial of the Apprentice and Siege of
Siege of
Lothal
as one episode.
which
Yes,
is
that's
why it's
correct.
20 and not the 22 that you will
Yes.
see if you're actually looking at the episode count somewhere. All right, number 20, I have Blood Sisters. 19, The Protector of Conquered Dawn. 18, The Lost Commanders. 17, The Forgotten Droid. 16, Brothers of the Broken Horn. 15, The Mystery of Chopper Base. 14, A Princess on Lothal. 13, The Call. 12, Wings of the Master. 11, Homecoming. 10, Stealth Strike. 9, Always Two There Are. 8, Relics of the Old Republic. 7, Shroud of Darkness. 6, The Honorable Ones. 5, Legends of the Lasat. 4, Legacy. 3, The Future of the Force. 2, The Siege of Lothal. And 1, of course, never any doubt, The Twilight of the Apprentice.
Mine, 20-1. Number 20, Brothers of the Broken Horn. Number 19, Blood Sisters. Number 18, Legends of the Lasat. Number 17, Stealth Strike. Number 16, Homecoming. Number 15, The Forgotten Droid. Number 14, Wings of the Master. Number 13, The Call. Number 12, The Lost Commanders. Number 11, Relics of the Old Republic. Number 10, The Protector of Concord Dawn. Number 9, The Honorable Ones. Number 8, The Mystery of Chopper Base. Number 7, Always Two There Are. Number 6, The Siege of Lothal. Number 5, Legacy. Number 4, The Future of the Force. Number 3, Shroud of Darkness. Number 2, A Princess on Lothal. And number 1, Twilight of the Apprentice. Very different lists. I feel like more different than usual, honestly, with us. And there's some really interesting stuff. We usually use this time to talk about the discrepancies between our lists and just talk about what is similar and different with our lists. Let's go with similar first. Both Twilight of the Apprentice at number 1, which we'll talk about later.
No question there. I feel like that's just
and
one of my very
both
favorites.
Call at number 13, which is lower on the list, but towards the middle.
Yeah, I mean, let's contextualize these lists, Eli, because I always feel like it's hard to know. 13 out of 20 sounds like it's in the bottom half, but for me, I think The Call is a stellar episode. It just so happens that there's 12 episodes that much more stellar. I would say for me, I think there's only one episode, maybe two. I would say for me, The Protector of Conquered Dawn and Blood Sisters, which are my 19 and 20, those are the only ones that I feel like kind of ambivalent. I feel ambivalent about those episodes.
And the same for me with my 19 and 20. And the same thing for me with my 19 and 20, Blood Sisters and Brothers of the Broken Horn. Those are the two that really don't do much for me. Legends of the Lasat, I think, is good, not great. Stealth Strike and Homecoming are a step above that. And then we go from there with very good episodes to then when we get up to the Honorable Ones, I'd say just straight up great episodes to me.
Yeah. For me, I would say right around The Call at number 13. That's where we start getting really, really sharp, excellent episodes. That everything above is how I feel about those.
Well, let's talk about some discrepancies first.
So the biggest discrepancy.
Let's talk about the two biggest discrepancies, I think, on our list, which are very much like each other. We have reversals of each other where each one of us has an episode ranked very high, the other has ranked very low.
Yeah.
For mine, the high one is A Princess on Lothal, which I have ranked at number 2, where Jacob has it ranked at number 14. And for Jacob, it's Legends of the Lasat, where he has it ranked at number 5, and I have it ranked at number 18. Let's talk about Legends of the Lasat first, Jacob. Make your pitch for this episode. I'm not like that this episode deserves a pitch or anything like that, but like, why do you love this episode so much?
I just think that we needed a Zeb episode so badly, and I wanted one so badly, and this delivered so hard. I like the episodes, especially in Rebels, when we get into the mystical, mythical, quasi-religious, spiritual side of the Force and the galaxy and cosmology and a little bit of theology. And this episode does that side of Star Wars so incredibly well. The visuals are absolutely stunning. The music is on point. And I just love what this episode does for Zeb, where he really becomes deeply conflicted, a three-dimensional character dealing with his hopes and fears, his trauma and his regrets from his life, and the sacking of Lasan. And it just deals with it in I think a pretty profoundly beautiful way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think for me, everything this episode does for Zeb, the Honorable Ones kind of does better. And
I think the Honorable couldn't happen without this episode. I'll say that.
Interesting. I'm not sure I totally agree with that.
I think he probably would have killed Callus.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Like, I see what you mean.
That's part of my
I see what you mean
interpretation
plot wise. I see what you mean plot wise. I thought you meant
just
like
in terms of emotional development.
Yeah, I thought you meant thematically for a moment, and I was like, but like I understand what you mean with emotional development. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, no, I it just for me is one of those things that doesn't vibe as well. I think actually a lot of the character developed in episodes, although I appreciate their existence, as I mentioned, are some of the weaker episodes just generally in the season. I actually think when the season sticks to its A plot, even though I value the inclusion of the character development episodes, I think if you look at my list, when the season sticks to its A plot, revolving around the Force users, although I again acknowledge that is largely due to personal preference, I think it does better for me. Again, although episodes like I still do appreciate, even though they're towards the bottom of my list, episodes like Winds of the Master and The Call and The Forgotten Droid, and even The Mystery of Chopper Base, which is towards the middle of my list. Let's talk about Princess on Lothal, though. I'm gonna talk about my
spot difference.
Yeah, I've talked when we did this episode about how much I love this episode, and it's really it's been like a fine wine for me over time. It's gotten better and better and better. I deeply love how Leia is portrayed in this episode, and especially episode was released before the passing of Carrie Fisher, but after the passing of Carrie Fisher, it's only gotten so much better. Even though it's not Carrie herself, but just reminding us why this character is so important and what this character can do, not with the Force, even though she'll develop her own powers of the Force later, not with a blaster, but with her mere presence of what Leia represents to the galaxy, of course, which is hope, which is the prevailing idea that no matter how dark things get, they can always get better. And I think Julie Dolan does such a great job with the portrayal in the episode, and I think that Stephen Melching writes Leia exceptionally well, and Leia is exactly the person Ezra needs to talk to after what happens in the previous episode with his parents, and it's just such a great. We have the Lothal dynamic that we got used to with season 1, and then we introduce this sparkling beacon of hope in Leia Organa, and I think it just excels with that.
I agree with some of what you said. I think it's not a bad episode. It's an episode that I like quite a bit. I think for me it didn't gel quite the way it did for you. While I appreciated that we got to see Leia, while it was very cool, I think that I don't think that for her age and the time of her life that she's in, I'm having a hard time squaring this with something like Princess of Alderaan, which I'm not sure exactly what year that takes place.
With what?
Princess of Alderaan.
It's earlier.
That's 3 years before A New Hope when she's 16.
Okay, this is 2 years.
This is only 2 years.
That.
Season 2 is only 2 years.
Season 2 turns from 3 to 2. I believe. Okay,
so it's in that vicinity, and I think that the version and the portrayal of Leia we get here is reminiscent of a more of.
Oh no, it's 3. It's 3.
Post, yeah. Okay, so 3 years. It's more of a post A New Hope, or right pre A New Hope Leia. I didn't I was having a hard time squaring who we saw here, despite the fact that she was a little bit newer to the rebellion thing and made some mistakes. It felt like she was too far along in her development into the leader that we know her as to be believable for me
Yeah, I can
personally,
understand that.
having read that novel several times and really loved that. With that being said, like this is a very very good episode, and I love that Leia and Ezra get to have their moments, and Ezra kind of can get some encouragement and a little bit of mentorship from Leia. So not at all a bad episode, quite a good episode for me, but I think there are other episodes that I value more.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
What about the
Um,
Protector of Conquer Dawn? You have that at 10. I have that at 19. That's the third biggest difference, I believe.
yeah, okay. I really like this episode. I think that the development, this as a Sabine development episode, even though it is Hera who takes the brunt of the pain this episode, I think this is an episode of development into Mandalorian culture. Maybe it's hindsight with the knowing what else we're going to get of the Mandalorian episodes in seasons 3 and 4. But I think this is really interesting. I think it delves into a part of the universe that we really hadn't gotten into this show in this show yet. I think it's a really great adventure episode, and I think the introduction of Fen Rao as a character is really strong. Well, not one of my favorites. I think I think it's really I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. I think I agree with you that this is an important episode for Sabine, but I just think as an episode overall, the execution just feels a little bit lifeless compared to most of this season. I think Fen Rao is important and a fun character, but in this episode, I just wasn't convinced by most of this episode.
Okay, I understand that. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Should we get to the next question, or do we want to? Do you have anything else you want to talk about in this
There's
list?
one more I'm curious about. Let me see. Is that
Was it Mystery Chopper Base?
Mystery of Chopper Base? Where do you have that?
8,
8. Yeah, that's pretty
15.
high. I have
The
that
7 spots
at
difference.
15. I
Yeah.
think it's for me it's that problem of like I love some of the moments we get Zeb and Ezra, their moment together, the emotional beats, the emotional sort of shading of this episode is great, but I just think that the A plot of fighting the spiders just doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I understand that. I think the slice of life stuff in this episode is just so incredibly strong to me
Yeah.
that I think that overrides a lot of that. But I
Mm,
understand why you have it lower.
fair enough. I
Um,
agree. I think the slice of life stuff is amazing, but as an overall episode, I just can't put it any higher
yeah.
than that. Yeah. Should
Um,
we?
all right, let's get to favorite episode. We just did an entire 2-hour episode talking about why Twilight of the Apprentice is our favorite episode.
We did.
But yeah, I'm gonna read from my notes. Twilight of the Apprentice was a masterclass in Star Wars animated television. It used its double length to incredible effect, giving us the blinding of Kanan Jarrus, the reintroduction of Darth Maul, the tipping into darkness of Ezra Bridger, the epic reappearance of Lord Vader himself, and a beautiful ending to the arc of Ahsoka Tano, all capped off with a tear-jerking montage that perfectly ends the emotional arcs of the season while preparing us to the next so incredibly well done.
That pretty much took the words out of my mouth. Like I said before, this episode when I first watched it, it brought me to tears. It moved me to tears. I mean, just Ahsoka, her journey, this phase of her life coming to an end. It's so poignantly executed. The her moment with Vader, her reckoning, Maul being brought back in, Ezra facing off with Darth Vader, Ezra grappling with his inner demons, grappling with his wants, needs, desires, Kanan having to let go, having to trust Ezra, and then being blinded, and the entire crew getting back together minus Ahsoka. And this is the first time in the show that we really feel a heavy, hard hitting loss that there's no coming back from. Like Ahsoka is gone, and at this point, it felt that she was gone forever. And this episode just executes it so beautifully and just makes it hit as hard as possible.
Absolutely, it does. let's talk about our least favorite episode of this season. Talk to us about Blood Sisters.
Blood Sisters. Go back to my notes to make sure. It's very unfortunate that the two quote unquote Sabine episodes are at the very bottom for me, but I just wasn't moved by Ketsu Onyo or her relationship to Ketsu. I didn't find her particularly interesting or enriching as a foil for Sabine, as to reveal something about Sabine, to make Sabine learn and grow in some way. I don't think she was effective at all. I don't think she was, as on a standalone character, not particularly fleshed out in this episode. I did like what it did for Sabine, but kind of she did reaffirm her commitment to the rebellion, and we get a little bit of illumination as to the life choices that she made in much broader strokes. But unlike a lot of the Zeb episodes, the Hera episodes, I don't really see this as changing or impacting her. It's just a little bit of reflection on where she is now and why. And I just think it's, quite frankly, I just don't find it to be that exciting of an episode. I think that we can look forward to some episodes that dial in on Sabine really doing a much better job in season 3.
Yeah, it's my second least favorite of this season, and I mostly agree with you. I think I find Ketsu a little bit more compelling than you do, but I think the scenarios surrounding the two in this episode were pretty just bland and didn't really do anything for me. So, yeah, I understand that. But my least favorite, just below that, is Brothers of the Broken Horn, which, again, I think it actually has a lot of the same problems as Blood Sisters for me, which is the characters in it, specifically. Not all the characters. That's the thing about Blood Sisters, is the characters are good, the situations are not great. Brothers of the Broken Horn, for me, can't even claim all the characters are good, because as Morgan annoys the shit out of me, and Vijago's just kind of there. Hondo's a delight. Hondo's never not a delight. It's just everything that happens around them. Like, it's Hondo and as Morgan and Vijago kind of fucking around with each other the entire episode, and Ezra and Chopper are just kind of there. And I just kind of feel like nothing really of consequence happens in the episode. No real character development happens other than Ezra realizing that he doesn't want to be a pirate, which, okay. And yeah, it's just, there's just not a lot. Like, there's not a lot of meat in the bones for me in Brothers of the Broken Horn, other than us getting Hondo back, which, yay, cool.
Yeah. Now, this is where I hard disagree with you. I had this at number 2019. I only had this at number 16, so it wasn't particularly high for me. However, I quite liked this episode. I'll agree with you. It's not the greatest episode of the show. It's a little ponderous sometimes.
Sorry, my microphone fell, so I don't want that impacting the recording.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's a little ponderous sometimes. It's a little bit meandering of an episode. As Morrigan is a little superfluous. Like, he's not in fine form, is he ever? But this episode is maybe not his greatest moment. Despite that, however, I think that I agree with you. This doesn't bring about a huge change for Ezra, but it's a bit like this episode for Ezra is sort of what Blood Sisters is for Sabine. They're even called Blood Sisters, Brothers of the Broken Horn, where it's Ezra just being confronted with people who at another time in his life he would have really looked up to, would have really been his role model. But at this point, he's reflecting on the things that have changed him. He's reflecting on his new purpose and his new sense of calling and belonging with the Ghost Crew. And he's saying, you know what? That's not for me anymore. You guys are running around doing your thing, but I'm not a part of that. Furthermore, I think I really enjoyed Hondo in this episode. I loved seeing sort of an old, washed up Hondo, still merrily along his way, but trying to reclaim a little bit of former glory. And I think the ending is actually really good. It's honestly a bit poignant, I think, with Hondo telling Ezra, "You really are a Jedi." When Ezra tells Hondo there was a time when he would have joined his crew, like, that means so much more than Ezra even knows, coming from Hondo, who's had extensive run-ins and entanglements with Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Dooku, like every kind of legendary Jedi and Force wielder throughout the Clone Wars. So I think it's not the most developmental episode for anyone, but I think it's a really great way of reaffirming Ezra's commitment to the Ghost Crew. Like he runs away, takes the Phantom, has his emo phase, and then he's back. And I think that it does a good job of laying bare the family theme of Rebels.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's not even my least favorite Hondo episode of Rebels. I'll just say that.
What is the other Hondo episode? Is it
It's the Winkathu job.
the Winkathu job? Oh, that season. Yeah, we got more Hondo on the way.
Yes, we do.
More Hondo on the way. All right.
Yeah, more Hondo even just next episode. But anyway, yeah, best character. Jacob, go ahead.
This is always a challenge, but best character for me, I think, is Zeb. In terms of trying not to choose one of the extremely obvious choices or one of the like main characters, which for me is really Kanan and Ezra and maybe Hera in this season. But Zeb, I think, just he expands so much as a character, and we just can appreciate him so much more, even in the episodes that aren't as Zeb episodes, like with what is it? Always Two There Are, for instance. He swoops in and saves the day. It's his sharp outside the box thinking that saves the day when Ezra and Sabine are both captured by the Inquisitors. So that's just one example. But I just love Zeb in this season.
I think this is where like our personal tastes with Rebels come in, because mine, I don't think incredibly surprisingly to anybody, is indeed Ahsoka Tano. This is the season of Ahsoka Tano.
This is Ahsoka.
This is where she comes into her own. We get to see how much she's grown. One of my biggest complaints about this season is that we didn't get as much Ahsoka as I would have wanted.
I actually agree with that. I agree with that emphatically.
I loved every time Ahsoka came to the show. It was a fantastic episode. I loved every experience we got with her. This more mature and grown-up Ahsoka while still facing her own challenges that we continue to get in the little bit of season 4 when we saw her, and of course in her show. I love this Ahsoka. I've always loved this character, but this new mature Ahsoka, especially as Fulcrum, is just fantastic. And yeah, her conclusion of this arc in this season is great. As Ashley Eckstein gets better with every Ahsoka performance she has, and she started out very good. So yeah, Ahsoka is my favorite character in the season. Worst character this season.
Worst character this season. I think as Morgan pretty much does nothing in the episodes that he's in this time around.
Honestly, I couldn't argue that much with you.
He was a little more effective in season 1, I would say, down on Lothal. But this time, it's just like, why is he back? Like, this is so. It feels so completely superfluous.
That could have been my answer. That honestly could have been my answer. The fact that it is my answer is honestly, like, now I think about it, a little surprising to me. I think you know my answer based on last episode. Fuck the fifth brother. All my homies hate the fifth brother.
Why the fifth brother?
He does nothing. Like, the entire season, I feel like, is like kind of trying to hint that he's a threat to us, but he does fucking nothing. He just stands there.
He is an absolute bonehead. Like, he gets taken out so easily in the duel against Ahsoka in Future of the Force. Like, yeah, he really. You might be right. Like,
I was really impressed, honestly, with his portrayal in Obi-Wan Kenobi, because he does as much nothing in that show as he does here.
I know. Yeah, he's just one of those do nothing characters.
Like, the Seventh Sister isn't a lot of like. Isn't that much, like, personality-wise more interesting, but at least she does things. Like, there's an interesting sort of, like, she kind of plays into a weird, like, sexuality, seduction sort of thing with Ezra a little bit, or at least she has a little bit more personality because she's played by Sarah freaking Michelle Gellar.
She takes it toe-to-toe with Ahsoka, and she gives Ahsoka. I'd say she gives her a run for her money, but she holds her own against Ahsoka and gives her.
She at least does a little bit against Ahsoka.
Fight. Like, she could she was putting up.
slams against fifth brother, slammed against the wall, and then just stands there.
Yeah, like the seventh
he's supposed to be
always...
physically imposing, and doesn't even really do that much physically imposing stuff either.
Yeah, no,
complete nothing burger.
He doesn't really do anything.
And that's when we have characters like Merrick and like the other like nothing burger inquisitors. Like he's a nothing burger of an inquisitor in an order full of nothing characters. It's impressive, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember when this season came out, I remember when we realized that it wasn't just the Inquisitor, that this was an order.
Yeah.
When they were the fifth brother and seventh sister, we were like, holy cow, like, it felt so exciting and cool and creative and new at the time. And now looking back at it, I'm just like, man, what a way. Do much. It really didn't do much.
Yeah. Coolest new thing you've noticed from the rewatch?
Coolest new thing I noticed from the rewatch. I'm gonna go with there's a couple of things in my head, and I'm trying to decide on one. I think just the depth of Hera's development in this season was not something that I appreciated the first couple of times around, and it took me talking through it with you, I think, to really understand and articulate why I instinctively was kind of drawn to her as a character, and attached to her as a character, even when she's not always in the foreground. But I think this time around, I really saw episodes like Homecoming and sure throughout the season, just went, man, like, she is so cool, and really just the backbone of the crew. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think actually I don't think Hera, like, maybe it's just because we just did an entire episode with Unending Galaxy where Hera wasn't there. Maybe that was why I wasn't like her development in this season was de-emphasized in my mind. But no, Wings of the Master, Homecoming, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff.
Wings of the Master too.
Mine is actually related to Wings of the Master. I really learned to appreciate the smaller episodes this season. 2 episodes ago, I titled our episode about Forgotten Joy and Mystery of Chopper Base, the smaller moments. And those episodes, Wings of the Master, The Call, and the Mystery of Chopper Base especially, even though all of them are near the middle of my rankings, I really have learned as of recent to appreciate when Star Wars goes small, especially in that Rebellion era. I've talked lately about how much I love when Rebel missions are just acquire this ship or steal fuel, and valuing those quieter moments. And all of those 3 episodes I mentioned before are about that. And it's something that I love when Rebels does. It's something that I appreciated in Andor. And honestly, one of my biggest flaws of that show is that it didn't do that more. But yeah, I really love those quieter moments, those smaller missions of, okay, let's get like a few X-Wings, let's get a few B-Wings, let's get some fuel, let's recruit a few people into the rebellion because that's worth it. I really do love that.
Very well said. Yes, I agree.
Finally, favorite planet.
Favorite planet. Man, this is hard because there's so many cool planets.
It's a galaxy hopping,
amazing designs.
Yeah.
That don't even get named. That don't even get named in the episodes that they're in. I'm thinking.
No, but but I can tell you if they're named out of.
I'm just thinking like, gosh, like the moon base that they go to in Brothers of the Broken Horn, or the
is that Nick? Are you talking about Nixus or
Nixus? Maybe, yeah, like Nixus. The planet in Garel is fantastic. The planet in
Nixus Hub 218.
Holy moly! The planet in the Future of the Force. There's so many options.
Oh, Takobo.
Takobo, yeah. I'm going honorable mention to all those, and a few that I haven't named. I'm going with the moon of Geonosis.
Barin,
the moon where the Honorable Ones takes place. It is just the perfect backdrop, the perfect environment for this episode, where a story of man versus man becomes a story of man versus nature, and just that backdrop of the rich orange Geonosis hanging low in the sky amidst this world of frosty white and blue. It's visually captivating, and it's just a perfect arena for this story to play out. Literally trapped in the pit together.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great pick. Mine is pretty in keeping with a lot of my feelings about the season. My favorite planet of this season is Avalon. Less so as a planet, although I think it's plenty interesting, and we'll get a lot more interesting stuff about it next season, and more as a solid staging ground for where the rebels can start forming that capital R rebellion. I can't wait to see more of it next season. We only really got one episode of it this season, but I really like Avalon. I really like what it does for the season as our final home place of this season.
Good choice.
Yeah, that's the first half of our retrospective episodes, but we like to do a second half of the episode where I talk about, as we finish the season, what's coming next for us. Next, we're continuing on. We're doing season 23 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Will be season 3 of Star Wars Rebels. We got some great guests lined up, but we're gonna start with just doing 2 episodes, although one is going to be double length episode. Next episode, episode 186 of Star Wars in a Galaxy, will be Steps into Shadow and the Holocrons of Fate, the first 2 episodes of Star Wars Rebels, although Steps into Shadow is a double-length episode, as I previously said. Hopefully the next week, we're still making plans for this, but I'll edit in something about this. We're still making plans, but we're hoping that our next bracket stream will be on October, which will be our best of the rest bracket stream. Yeah, so there's that. And then, yeah, we're cruising on. We're hoping that by the end of the year, we will finish season 23 of Star Wars in the Galaxy and season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, respectively. And then we'll begin the new year 2026 with season 4 of Star Wars Rebels. And then from there, we'll keep you posted as to what exactly we're going to be doing in the future of Star Wars in a Galaxy. It's going to be a little while, but I want to delay as much as we can before we get to Rogue One into A New Hope for a whole bunch of reasons. I want to make sure we get everything before then, before we completely dive into the firm original trilogy era of things.
Yeah.
But we will be doing it. Don't worry about that. And I think that's it for us here. Do you have anything else to add about the future of Star Wars in the Galaxy, Jacob?
Stay tuned. We got a lot more good stuff coming.
We do. That is definitely true. I think that's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Next week, as we mentioned, we're going to keeping on. Episode 186 of Star Wars in the Galaxy, Steps into Shadow and the Holocrons of Fate. In the meantime, you can follow us everywhere on social media, although mostly BlueSky and Instagram. You can listen to us everywhere you get to your podcast, which is what I meant to say in the first place. You can follow me. My link tree is linktr.ee/_OchiFan327. Epic Conversations is proceeding along. We should be recording our next match, Nikki Kumar versus Jerry the Cannon Junkie, in mid-October, releasing around late October. So keep an eye out for that. And I think in the meantime, all there's left to say is may the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.